Before we talk about the implications of Gödel's incompleteness theorems, let's quickly recapitulate the discussion we had in the previous video. Gödel proved three theorems. The first pertained to the completeness and consistency of logic, and the next two pertain to the incompleteness of mathematics. By logic, we mean a reasoning system in which each word has only one meaning. By mathematics, we mean a reasoning system in which each word has multiple meanings, and each meaning can be represented by many words. The real problem is that logic assumes that one word has only one meaning. This problem is never discussed while discussing Gödel's incompleteness. Logic is always taken to be true and sacrosanct rather than problematic. Therefore, the true causes of mathematical incompleteness are seldom understood. We can understand this problem only by discussing logic in detail. In this video, we will delve into the problem of logic further. But before that, we have to understand the ideological climate in which all science, including mathematics, operates. The climate involves several dualisms, such as the Platonic world versus the real world, and the mental realm versus the physical realm. These dualisms have many names, and it is not useful to list all of them. It is, however, important to understand that mathematics operates under the assumption that mathematics lives in a Platonic world rather than the real world. Mathematicians will always say that they are unconcerned about whether mathematics has any real world application because they have assumed theorems they prove are already existing in the Platonic world. Bertrand Russell once said that mathematics is true in all possible worlds, while physics is true just in this world. These assumptions about the separation of worlds are deeply ingrained in the minds of mathematicians. So it is important to know that they are so ingrained. A very important reason why mathematics doesn't exist in the real world is that in the real world, each thing only exists in one place. Ideas such as those of mathematics, however, can exist in many minds at once. For example, two people can equally well know and think about a triangle and a circle. They are thinking about the same idea, but since they are two different people thinking about those ideas, therefore the ideas exist in two individual minds. Physically speaking, one thing cannot exist in more than one place. For example, a table cannot exist in two places at once. Therefore, if these ideas were physical things like a table, then they could only exist in one mind. Then only one person could know what a circle or a triangle was. To allow for ideas to exist in multiple minds at once, we have to say that mathematical ideas are not physical things. So they are not in the real world. They must exist in some mental realm of ideas, separate from the real world. Similarly, it is important to say that there is indeed a Platonic world where these ideas exist, even if nobody knows about them. After all, mathematicians discover or prove theorems one after another. However, the theorem is considered to have been true even when it had not been proven. The proof of a theorem is just the discovery of the proof rather than the invention of the theorem. If theorems do not already exist in the Platonic world, then the discovery of the proof would be the invention of mathematics rather than the discovery of the theorem. Of course, most physicists are quite comfortable with the idea that they are inventing physics. Although some physicists still talk about the discovery of the laws of nature, most physicists agree that physics is just building mental models of reality that might not have any basis in reality. However, mathematicians are not comfortable saying that the rules of geometry or arithmetic are their inventions. They would like to say that they are discovering the truth, and the truth must exist even if we don't know about the truth. For that to be possible, ideas must exist in a Platonic world, and when a mathematician discovers the idea, then the idea comes to reside in the mental realm too. This now leads us to three distinct worlds of matter, mind, and mathematics. Mathematics is in the Platonic world of pure ideas, because truth must exist even though nobody has yet discovered it or knows about it. Similarly, the mental realm of knowing the truth cannot be the physical realm, because in the physical realm, one thing can only exist in one place. For the truth to be known by many individuals, truth should not be in the real world of material objects. Thus, we arrive at a minimum three separate worlds of mind, matter, and mathematics. This is how a dualism becomes a trialism. Remember, we earlier talked about the existence of many dualisms. Two of these dualisms were mind versus body, and this world versus the Platonic world. Other dualisms, such as idea versus thing, are variations of these two dualisms. When we combine these dualisms, we get one trialism of the material world, mental world, and the Platonic world. Now we can see how every word can refer to something in either of these three worlds. For example, when we use the word circle, we could be speaking about a circular object in the real world, or an idea that we have in our minds, or the definition of a perfect round in the Platonic world. Factually, we use the same word such as circle in each of these three ways at different times. However, in a given context, the word circle just refers to one of the three worlds. Since the same word could mean something in either of the three worlds, therefore, each word cannot have just one meaning, as was required by Aristotelian logic. At the very least, it must have three different meanings corresponding to the three worlds. If we try to reduce the possible meanings of a word to less than three, then we will not be able to speak about one or more of the three worlds, and that would be incomplete description of reality. Therefore, we have to conclude that each word has three different meanings, and Aristotle's claim that each word has only one meaning is false. We can summarize this idea by talking about a word as the composite of three aspects. Each word can be treated as an object because it exists in this world. Then, each word represents a meaning which exists in a Platonic world. Finally, when words are used to describe something, then they are also referencing an object different from itself. Normally, we suppose that objects have no meanings or references. Each object is a thing in itself, so it could not be a thing about something else. But words are not objects like that, although they have an objective existence. Words reference other things, quite like our minds reference the world. Therefore, words become special kinds of objects that live in three worlds simultaneously. They are in the material world, the Platonic world, and the mental world. This naturally leads us to the problem of how the same thing can be in three different worlds. But it is not a problem if we say that each word has three aspects. Objects do not have aspects, nor do meanings, nor do references. But we can combine objects, meanings, and references into the aspects of one thing that we call a word. Then, due to the three aspects, the word would simultaneously exist in three separate worlds. and yet it would not be confined to one of those worlds. Through aspects, the word would be in three separate worlds and yet not confined to any one of them. We can also say that the world is a phenomenal entity, while the three faces of the word are the real entities. The reality is in three distinct places, but the phenomena is in one place. The phenomena is produced by cherry picking three things from three places and merging them into one thing that we can observe. That merged thing is produced by a choice, so it is phenomena. But the things that are being combined by the choice are reality. Now we don't have the problem of how one thing exists in three separate places because they are distinct as phenomena and reality. Now we can crisply define the problem of incompleteness as follows. If the world was like words, but science was modeling it like objects, then the modeling will always be incomplete. The object modeling of a word-like reality is incomplete because a word is not just an object. It is also meanings and references. When words are modeled as objects, then two out of the three aspects of the word are ignored, and that results in incompleteness. Therefore, if we want our rational system to be complete, we have to stop modeling reality as objects and start modeling it as words. Then there will be no incompleteness. Therefore, the study of incompleteness is not just the study of some facts about mathematics. It is also about how to solve the problem of incompleteness. The solution is that instead of modeling reality like objects, we must model them like words with three aspects. The solution to the problem of incompleteness can be further illustrated by saying that each word is an ensemble of meanings drawn from three worlds. A word could refer to an object in this world, or an idea in our mind, or a pure idea in the Platonic world. The same word can refer to three different things, one after another. However, in a given context, only one of these three meanings are evoked from the word. The word is like a bag of meanings from which one meaning is pulled out. That meaning could refer to the real world, the mental world, or the Platonic world. This is a very neat solution because each world is a different face of the word, and choice has just turned the faces of the word to show us different kinds of meanings. Thereby, the Platonic world is not somewhere else. It is also in the word, but we have to turn it to see its Platonic face. If we don't turn the word, then we just see the objective face. Likewise, the word has a face that denotes the mind of the speaker. If we turn the word to see that face, then we can know the speaker's mind from the word. But if we don't turn, then we will just see the objective face of the word. This description of a word as an ensemble of meanings drawn from three separate worlds can now be extended to different kinds of meanings within each word. By such extension, we generalize the concept of an ensemble of meaning that has three faces, but within each face there are many faces. For example, we can say that food is also an ensemble of the ideas of taste, touch, smell, color, shape, touch, and so on. However, to see these faces of the food, we have to turn the food through choice. This happens with every person as his consciousness moves from one property of the food to another. For example, we might first smell the food, then see the food, then taste the food, and so on. Again, a choice is applied to pick something from an ensemble of meanings. Thereby, food alternately becomes taste, touch, smell, color, shape, etc. But if we choose not to turn the faces, then we just see food in only one way. When we see everything as a combination of many things through a choice, then we cannot equate a part of the whole to the whole. The whole is all of the parts, but none of the parts are the whole. This whole part discussion now requires a non-binary logic. Earlier in the Aristotelian logical system, there was no whole and no part. Everything was just an independent object. There we could say that taste is taste, smell is smell, food is food. But when food is taste and smell, then we have to say that smell and taste are not food. Therefore, we have to say that food is spicy, but spicy is not food. Food is cooked, but cooked is not food. This is because of whole part logic. The food is the whole, while spicy is just one aspect of the food. We turn the food by choice to see its many faces. The whole thing is all of its faces, but none of the faces is the whole thing. The food is delicious, but delicious is not food. The food is many things at once, but none of those things are the food. This is the breakage of the principle of identity in Aristotelian logic. It arises as a result of whole and part. It does not exist in Aristotelian logic because there was no whole. It was just independent parts. At this juncture, it is worthwhile recollecting Aristotle's definition of logic again. As he says, not to have one meaning is to have no meaning, and if words have no meaning, then our reasoning with one another and indeed with ourselves has been annihilated. For it is impossible to think of anything if we do not think of one thing. Aristotelian logic means that one word has one meaning. But that is not true when a word is a collection of many meanings, one of which is selected by choice that turns the word to see one of its faces. Therefore, if we call Aristotelian logic a binary logic, then the logic of whole and part will be called a non-binary logic. It is justified on alternative principles of whole and part rather than just independent things. The problems of Aristotelian logic are not difficult to see. They arise when we restrict one word, such as food, to just one thing. For example, if food is just one thing, then if food is hot is true, then food is cold must be false. That is because we did not include pizza and water within food. We insisted that food is just one thing. So if food is hot is true, then food is cold must be false. However, if pizza and water are two faces of food, then food is pizza and food is water. Then pizza is hot is not contradictory to water is cold. That is because food has two meanings in this case, namely food and water. And each of these meanings is also many meanings, one of which is hot or cold. In Aristotelian logic, we will have to eliminate either pizza or water from food to avoid the contradiction that food is both hot and cold. We don't have to do that with the whole part doctrine, where pizza and water are two faces of food, and hot is one face of pizza while cold is another face of water. In this way, we can say contradictory things like food is hot and food is cold without a contradiction. One face of food is pizza and another face is water. One face of pizza is hot and another face of water is cold. They can be true without contradiction. At this juncture, some people might say that we could resolve this problem of food being both pizza and water through set theory. Therefore, it is important to discuss why set theory doesn't solve the problem. The reason is that when we draw sets, then the set of taste includes food and poison, while the sets of food and poison include taste. Therefore, food is inside taste and taste is inside food. Since taste is also present in poison, therefore when taste is included in food, then poison is also included inside food. Therefore, when we say that food has taste and taste has poison, then we have to say that food has poison. In this way, every food becomes a poison and every poison becomes food. These are called set theory paradoxes. They are actually false, but we cannot see that in set theory. We have to look at the whole part system to understand how set theory paradoxes are false. In the whole part non-binary system, taste is not defined by aggregating food and poison. Taste is defined in relation to our senses rather than in relation to food and poison. Then food and poison are defined by aggregating taste. Similarly, the senses of taste and smell are not defined in relation to food and poison. They are instead defined as phases of a mind, which means they are a subset of all that the mind can think. The mind can think much more than taste and smell, but taste and smell is just a subset of what the mind can think. Therefore, taste and smell are just phases of the mind. Ultimately, taste and smell are defined in relation to each observer rather than in relation to food and poison. Therefore, we do not include food and poison within taste and smell. The result is that food has taste and poison has taste. However, taste doesn't have food or poison. When taste is included in food, then poison is not included. Therefore, in set theory, every food is a poison and every poison is a food. But that is not the case in the whole part theory. That is because the whole part theory includes observers, while set theory removes all observers and talks only about objects. Remember the mind-body dualism under which mathematics operates. This mind-body dualism is used in set theory to say that we will define taste through objects rather than through the observer's senses. By removing the observer, set theory creates paradoxes. They are the results of removing the observer due to the mind-body dualism. Now that we have an understanding of the whole part theory, which is different from Aristotelian logic of objects, we can talk about a real-world application of this idea in quantum mechanics. The basic problem of quantum mechanics is that there is a whole, which is called the ensemble, which comprises many quanta. These quanta are the different phases of the ensemble. By choice, we can turn the faces of the ensemble and see phase after phase. When we see one phase, then we don't see the other phases. Therefore, each quantum is a phase of the ensemble, and the ensemble is all the phases. We have to apply a non-binary logic system here, namely that the ensemble is all the phases, but none of the phases is the ensemble. By seeing one phase, we are knowing something about the ensemble, but that is not complete knowledge. Thereby, neither is one phase totally divorced from the ensemble, nor is each phase equal to the ensemble. To see phase after phase, we have to explain the order in which the phases appear. That is just like food appears to us initially as smell, then as shape, then as color, then as taste, and so on. It can also appear in a different order, but the order of appearance involves a choice and an observer. The explanation of order depends on the observer rather than the object being studied. The broader philosophical undercurrent in all Western thinking is called universalism. It means that every truth is always true. We can broadly agree that all truths are always true. However, that doesn't mean that everyone can know the whole truth at once. Nor does it mean that truth will force itself upon you. There is a choice in knowing, therefore, there is no force. There is an option to know one thing before another, therefore, the truth is known progressively and gradually. Universalism doesn't have this choice. It insists that everyone can know all the truths at once, and the truth has to be forced upon everyone. Universalism is the denial of choice. It is also false. Even as all truths are eternal, we cannot know all the truths at once. We will know those truths one after another in some sequence, which depends on the observer rather than the truth. Similarly, truth doesn't force itself. There is a choice to know or not know. Thus, the observer is present in knowledge when we talk about choice in knowing. That observer is completely eliminated in universalism. By such elimination of the observer, contradictions are created. Because every word has many meanings, and to know the word fully, the observer must be simultaneously in many worlds, which is not possible. However, if we make these meanings the faces of truth, then the observer can go from one face to another, one world to another, one after another. Sometimes he can use the word to mean something in the Platonic world. Then he can use the same word to mean a real world object. Then he can use the same word to refer to someone's mind, including his own mind. In this way, the meaning of the word changes based on which face of the word the observer is seeing. This is not universalism because the observer is not seeing everything at once. This principle of one by one discovery of truth is seen in language, in the experience of food, in set theory, in Gödel's incompleteness, and so on. The observer's consciousness is moving from one truth to another, but because Western thinking removed the observer's consciousness from knowledge, therefore it tried to create truth without a choice and called it universalism. That truth devoid of choice doesn't exist. Any attempt to create a truth devoid of choice always results in paradoxes and contradictions. If we restore the observer back into mathematics, then there is no problem. The paradoxes and contradictions of mathematics point toward the collapse of universalism, although not of knowledge. Knowledge can still be observer centric, however, that will not be the universalist knowledge of mathematics or Western universalism.